Maria is standing in her kitchen in Scottsdale, Arizona, sorting mail on a Tuesday afternoon that feels like every other Tuesday. Her father passed 8 months ago. Between the casseroles and the sympathy cards, there was a folder, his retirement account statements, $640,000 sitting in a traditional IRA, now split between Maria and her brother. She thought the hard part was over. Then her accountant called in March with a number that made her sit down on the kitchen floor. Because of how the withdrawal rules actually work now, roughly a third of that inheritance could end up going to federal income tax before she ever gets to use it for her kids' college or her own retirement. Not because she did anything wrong, not because her father did anything wrong, because the rules changed, and almost nobody told them. Maria and her father are illustrative composite characters, built to walk you through a real mechanism affecting millions of American families. This isn't about one unlucky woman in Arizona. This is about what happens the moment an IRA, maybe yours, passes from one generation to the next. Here's the trap in plain English. For decades, if you inherited an IRA from a parent, you could stretch withdrawals out over your entire lifetime, letting the money grow tax-deferred for 30, 40, even 50 years. Financial people used to call that the stretch IRA. That door is now mostly closed. What replaced it is what I call the 10-year trap, a hard deadline that forces most adult children to drain an inherited IRA within a single decade, often while they're at the peak of their own earning years, stacking that inherited income right on top of their regular salary and pushing themselves into a much higher tax bracket than the person who originally saved the money ever paid. The irony is brutal. The account was built specifically to reward decades of patient, tax-deferred saving, and the payout window now punishes patience by handing the bill to the one generation least equipped to plan around it. Before we go further, let me properly introduce myself. I'm Jordan, and this channel exists for one reason: to help you and the people you love keep more of what you've worked for, and pass it on the right way, without the government or a confusing rulebook taking a bite nobody saw coming. If content like this is useful to you, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe, because we walk through one of these hidden traps every single week. Before we go any further, I want to be completely upfront with you. Everything in this video is a general education, not personalized legal, tax, or financial advice. Your situation has its own details. Your state, your family, your account types. So please talk to a licensed elder law attorney, a CPA, or a financial advisor before making any decisions based on what you hear here. Now let's talk about how this mechanism actually works, because understanding it is the only way to plan around it. For most of the history of the IRA, when you inherited one from a parent, you were allowed to take what's called required minimum distributions, RMDs, based on your own, much longer life expectancy. A 35-year-old could stretch withdrawals out for decades, letting the bulk of the account keep growing tax-deferred, only pulling out small slices each year. That structure changed with the Secure Act, and it changed again with Secure 2.0. Today, if you're a non-spouse beneficiary, meaning you're not the husband or wife of the original account owner, you generally fall under what's known as the 10-year rule. That means the entire inherited IRA balance has to be withdrawn by the end of the 10th year after the original owner's death, not stretched over your lifetime. 10 years, full stop, in most cases. Here's where it gets more complicated, and this is the part that trips up even careful families. Whether you also have to take annual required minimum distributions during those 10 years, rather than just draining it all in year 10, depends on whether the person who died had already started taking their own RMDs before they passed. If the original owner had already reached the age where the IRS requires withdrawals and was actively taking them, many beneficiaries now have to take annual distributions in years 1 through 9 and then empty whatever remains by the end of year 10. If the original owner died before they were required to start taking distributions, the beneficiary generally has more flexibility on timing within that same 10-year window. But the account still has to be fully emptied by year 10 regardless. Why does this matter so much for taxes? Because a traditional IRA is what's called tax-deferred, not tax-free. Every dollar that comes out is treated as ordinary income in the year you withdraw it, taxed at the same rates as your paycheck. When you had decades to stretch withdrawals, you could keep each year's taxable amount small, staying in a lower bracket. Compress that same balance into a 10-year window, especially years when you're also working full-time and earning a strong salary, and you can easily push large chunks of that inheritance into the 32%, 35%, or even 37% federal brackets. Brackets your retired parent may never have come close to touching. Add state income tax in many states, and yes, in some real-world scenarios, the combined bite genuinely can approach or exceed 30% of the inherited amount, particularly for higher balance accounts and higher earning heirs. There are exceptions worth knowing about in general terms, even though we won't get into exact numbers here. Surviving spouses are treated differently and typically retain much more favorable lifetime-style options. minor children of the original owner, certain disabled or chronically ill beneficiaries, and beneficiaries who are not more than 10 years younger than the original owner may also qualify for different, often more generous treatment under what the IRS calls eligible designated beneficiary status. And Roth IRAs, while still generally subject to that same 10-year emptying rule for non-spouse beneficiaries, come out federally income tax-free, which is a meaningfully different math problem than a traditional IRA. Let's make this concrete with 3 scenarios, all built around the same illustrative $600,000 inherited traditional IRA, because seeing it side by side is where this really clicks. Scenario 1, family A, no planning, high tax state. The adult child inherits the account, is in their peak earning years, and lives in a state with meaningful state income tax on top of federal. Because the original owner was already taking RMDs, the child is boxed into annual withdrawals, plus a final year 10 drain. In this illustrative example, several of those withdrawal years land the child in the 32% to 35% federal bracket, and state tax adds several more percentage points on top. Combined, the family loses an amount in the ballpark of a quarter to a third of the account's value to taxes over the decade. Again, purely as an illustrative estimate, not a promise. Scenario 2, family B, same account. But the child lives in a state with no state income tax, and the family works with an advisor to time larger withdrawals in lower income years, such as a year between jobs or before a raise kicks in. In this illustrative comparison, smoothing the withdrawals and avoiding the highest brackets could meaningfully reduce the total tax bite compared to family A, potentially saving tens of thousands of dollars, illustratively speaking, simply through timing. Scenario 3, family C, where the parent did some planning before passing, for example, converting a portion of the traditional IRA to a Roth IRA during their own lower income retirement years, paying the tax at their own, often lower, rate. In this illustrative scenario, the heirs inherit a partially or fully Roth account, still subject to that same 10-year emptying window, but the withdrawals come out federally tax-free, which can dramatically change the family's total outcome over the decade. Same asset, same 10-year rule, 3 very different results, and the difference isn't luck, it's whether anyone looked ahead. So what can families actually do? Let's talk about legitimate, commonly recommended strategies. Not loopholes, not aggressive schemes, just planning tools that licensed professionals use every day. I'll walk through 4 of them, and then I want to show you the real math side by side. Strategy 1, Roth conversions during the original owner's lifetime. This means gradually converting portions of a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA while the account owner is alive, paying tax on those converted amounts at the owner's own rate, ideally during lower income retirement years. Done thoughtfully over several years, this can shift the tax burden from the heir's potentially higher bracket to the parent's potentially lower one. This requires careful, personalized calculation, so this is squarely a conversation for a CPA or financial advisor, not a do-it-yourself project. Strategy 2, proactive beneficiary designation reviews. Many people haven't looked at their beneficiary forms in 10, 15, 20 years. Life changes, divorces, deaths, new grandchildren. And outdated beneficiary designations can create confusion, probate delays, or unintended tax consequences. A regular review with your advisor or attorney ensures the account goes exactly where you intend, structured in a way that accounts for today's rules. Strategy 3, spreading withdrawals strategically within the 10-year window. Rather than waiting and dumping everything in year 10, a beneficiary can work with an advisor to withdraw amounts each year that keep them in a lower or moderate bracket, especially during years with lower income, after a job loss, during a career break, or before other income ramps up. This is timing, not avoidance, and it's a completely legitimate planning conversation to have. Strategy 4, charitable and family gifting strategies, such as qualified charitable distributions for owners who are of eligible age, or coordinating IRA withdrawals with other family gifting and estate planning tools. These require precise, personalized structuring. So again, this is implementation work for a licensed elder law attorney or estate planning attorney, not something to attempt from a YouTube comment section. Now here's the live math payoff, using our illustrative Family A and Family B from earlier. Family A did nothing. They inherited the $600,000 account, took no advice, let the required withdrawals happen on autopilot during their highest earning years, and lived in a state with real income tax. Illustratively, by the end of the 10-year window, a meaningful chunk, again in this hypothetical scenario, in the range of 30%, went to combined federal and state taxes, leaving them with substantially less than the original balance to actually use for their family's future. Family B planned ahead. The parent did partial Roth conversions in their final working years. The adult children worked with an advisor to time withdrawals around lower income years and understood exactly which parts of the account were taxable and which weren't. In this illustrative comparison, Family B kept meaningfully more of that same $600,000 working for their family, money that stayed available for a down payment, for a child's education, for their own retirement, instead of disappearing into a tax bracket nobody planned for. Same inheritance, same rules. Completely different outcome, because one family had a conversation 5 years before it mattered, and the other found out the hard way, sorting mail on a Tuesday. Here's the one thing I want you to take away from all of this. An inherited IRA is not a gift that arrives fully finished. It's a 10-year countdown that rewards families who plan ahead and quietly costs the ones who don't. If you have a parent with a retirement account, or if you're the parent building one right now, this is not a conversation to put off until it's an emergency. Share this video with the person in your life who still thinks they can figure it out later. Your sibling, your parent, the friend who just inherited an account and has no idea the clock already started.